Chapter 25. The First Stock Exchange. It would not have been like Broadway to nurse its loneliness for more than one brief winter after the gay capital had flown elsewhere. Nor did Wall Street let go of its newfound importance, for Congress had already authorized the sale of $80 million in bonds, and people were beginning to get their savings out of the cracked teapots for better investments. The whole country was awake, and New York was ready for the day's opportunity. At about 68 Wall Street, there stood, in 1790, a spreading buttonwood tree. Under its branches, a dozen merchants began to congregate each day for the buying and selling of the new securities. This was the first stock exchange. By 1792, its membership had grown to 24, with definite agreements about trading drawn up between them. On the corner of Broad and Wall Streets, John Broome, Gulian Verplanck, William Light, and a few other prominent merchants gathered to form the Tontine Association, a novel kind of loan society, and the building they presently erected as the Tontine Coffee House, valued at $35,000, was the most costly mansion of the period in New York. It soon became the favorite meeting place for traders, and much history was made within those walls before it was destroyed by fire in 1804. But war clouds had been gathering in Europe, and before long France was not only in the throes of her revolution, but fighting England as well. This excitement was reflected in New York, so full of French sympathizers, and with the memories of the Wallabout prison ships still fresh. It was hard to be neutral. In resentment, England began to discriminate against American shipping, to the distress of New York merchants. Finally, Washington sent John Jay on a peace mission to Great Britain, and the result was his famous commercial treaty. Just at this time, New York State elected John Jay as governor, and when he returned from London, he was enthusiastically installed in the government house on Bowling Green. The ceremonies were barely over when the terms of his treaty were made public. It looked like a betrayal of the French, and New York was furious. An angry mob collected in Wall Street, and when Rufus King and Alexander Hamilton tried to speak on behalf of the treaty, they were stoned. The crowd surged down to Bowling Green, where a copy of the offending document was burned before the government house. At the same time, however, the merchants forming the Chamber of Commerce, quietly collected, assured themselves that the treaty provided the first real freedom American commerce had known on the high seas, and voted 60-10 in its favor. Their vision was clear and accurate, but the Jay Treaty was in reality a turning point for New York as an important port among world cities. Shipbuilding began at once. In another 5 years, when the population had about doubled, the Rapelye Farm at Wallabout had become the Brooklyn Navy Yard, and the inventive genius of such men as John Fitch, John Stevens, Nicholas Roosevelt, and Robert Livingston was already at work upon the problem of steam navigation. There was a movement to drain off the Collect Pond by making a wide ditch through Canal Street, but before this had been done, John Fitch, in 1796, had a chance to try out on its quiet waters his little vessel equipped with a 10-gallon iron pot as a boiler. Robert Livingston watched it make 6 miles an hour under its own steam, and persuaded the state legislature to give him a 20-year monopoly on this new form of navigation. Inventive genius had been given a sharp stimulus, and by the time the little boat of John Fitch was declared impracticable, still another idea was taking form in the brain of Robert Fulton.